Okay, so here's the second part of the paragraph lecture. This will hopefully go a little bit faster. I'll try to get through it more quickly than the other part. So again, talking about paragraph length, your content and your purpose determines your paragraph length. And again, you get to decide how long or how short you want it to be. Now, the reasons to start a new paragraph, this is the main one. You're turning to a new idea, a new topic. Anytime you have a new topic, you need to go to a new paragraph. You want to emphasize something. So I mentioned in the first half of this about Langston Hughes having the "so I go up." That's the entire paragraph. It is the turning point of that narrative essay. This is what he wants to emphasize. And the reason he goes to that and the reason he does it as such a short paragraph and makes it stand out is because it is the turning point. It's the most important point of the essay. This is changing. It used to be anytime somebody in a narrative spoke, then you'd go to a new paragraph. That doesn't happen as often as it used to, but still, if you only have two speakers, changing giving a new paragraph each time each one speaks allows you to quit saying he said, she said, which is the reason for that. Because once you establish who's speaking, then the reader can just keep track of it by the fact you're changing paragraphs. All right, and anytime you want to get the readers to pause, that's another reason for a paragraph. It's not used that often, but it is useful. You need to give their mind a second or two to think what's just been given to them, and that helps. And anytime you take up a subtopic. So remember the example I gave you about childhood obesity, how fast food contributing to that, how the fast food gets into the house is a subtopic of the fast food contributing to childhood obesity. And always, 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 I'd be jumping up and down if we were in class right now to start the conclusion. Your conclusion paragraph has to be a separate paragraph. And it should not have any information in it that we have not seen before. If you start putting new information into your concluding paragraph, you no longer have a concluding paragraph. You now have a new body paragraph. Make sure that anything that's in your concluding paragraph is also somewhere in your essay. Now, again, the organization, it must flow logically, the coherence. One of the ways you do this is you repeat keywords and phrases. So in this paragraph, over the centuries, shopping has changed in function as well in style. So shopping is what we're talking about. Then there's different words that get repeated that have to do with shopping. Before the Industrial Revolution, most consumer goods were sold in open air markets. Customers who went into an actual shop were expected to buy something, and shoppers were always expected to bargain for the best possible price. In the 19th century, however, the development of the department store changed the relationship between buyers and sellers. Instead of visiting several market stalls or small shops, customers could now buy a variety of merchandise under the same roof. All of those words somehow relate to shopping. A number of them are repeated, or variations of them are, such as shop and shoppers. That's one of the ways. You're repeating keywords and phrases. You can use parallelism. So parallelism is using the same grammatical structure. So where we're most familiar with parallelism is sentences, and we will do a short lecture that includes this in there when we talk about sentence strategy. Uh, he likes to hunt, to fish, and to sew quilts. So all of those it's a parallel sentence because all of the verb use is infinitive. To hunt, to fish, to sew. We don't go to hunt, to fish, and sewing, where we went to the gerund instead of the infinitive. And parallelism here, William Faulkner's Barn Burning tells the story of a young boy trapped in a no-win situation. If he betrays his father, he loses his family. If he betrays justice, he becomes a fugitive. In trying to free himself from his trap, he does both. So the if he betrays is parallel. He loses, he becomes. While it's different words, we're keeping the same verb tense and same verb structure. And that's another way to help with the coherence and the logical uh, relationship within a paragraph. You can also use transitions, repeated words, use synonyms. So words that are simple, that are the same but different words, same type of meaning. Pronoun use. This is why I will be so big on pronoun use and the pronoun lectures. Pronouns are not used well by most students, unfortunately, and it makes for very confusing writing if the reader can't tell what's going on with your pronouns. Parallelism, which we just looked at, and something called backwards and forward looking sentences. This is also good to transition between paragraphs. So backwards and forwards looking sentence looks backwards to what you had spoke about and looks forward to where you're going. This also is very useful in the cause and effect essay when we get to it. So example of this is, let's say you're writing about how great your math teacher was in high school. And the first part of the essay talks about how she was just a wonderful person. Within the first week, she knew everybody's name. She really cared about everybody. She wanted to make sure that everybody succeeded, right? That's your first part of your description essay of this math teacher. And the second part of the essay is going to be, but how well she also was able to teach the subject so that even people who had trouble with math were able to understand the complex concepts that she was teaching. So a backwards and forwards looking sentence could be one that after you talk about how great she was as a human being, you say, so not only was she a wonderful human being who really cared about her students, but, so that's looking backwards, what you already just said, but she also knew her subject well enough and was able to simplify it so that any student could understand the most difficult of concepts that she taught. And that's looking forward because now you're going to give examples of that. So that's backwards and forwards. From least complex to most complex, as we saw with the all animals communicate, going from the bees to humans. Least complex, most complex. All right, so the coherence again, I think it's the third time I've mentioned this. It does everything fit together? Are all the relationships made clear? Does the second sentence logically flow into the third sentence, the third into the fourth? Do you have an A, B, C, D where it absolutely makes sense? And this is what revision is for. And again, enough details aids this coherence. Now, the special paragraphs, the most important, of course, is your introduction. So in there may not be so much of a topic sentence, but what you're trying to do is draw your reader into your essay, and you more than likely the final paragraph or final sentence of that paragraph will be your claim, which kind of acts like the topic sentence. So the different types you state your thesis. You may have an introductory paragraph that is a definition because you're dealing with some complex issue that you don't not sure if the reader will understand the term that you're working with. You may give a useful quotation, but please be careful of that. I get a lot of that because it's used in high school a lot. I'm sure high school teachers are teaching this. You have to make sure the quotation is relevant and that it's interesting. Just throwing a quotation out doesn't really work. Anecdote works well. This is why we will cover narrative as the last essay. Especially if you've got a somewhat boring topic or one that you're not sure your reader will be interested in. Telling an interesting story in your introductory paragraph can help draw that reader in. So again, one of the main purposes of an introductory paragraph is to draw the reader into the essay and more than likely give the claim or the thesis. And then the last is a transitional. It smoothly changes topics, so it looks back as well as ahead. The way we talked about the forwards, backwards and forwards looking sentences, you can have an entire paragraph does that. And I will give you an example of that when we get to the cause and effect essay, your second essay for the class. All right, so that does it for the second half of this lecture. There is another lecture on paragraphs, which is much shorter than this one, that we look at a little bit later in the semester. Really, really work hard on your paragraphs because once you can write a decent paragraph, and you can lay your paragraphs out in a logical manner that makes sense, you can write a book. I mean, that's all a book is a bunch of paragraphs. And this is why I'm so big on you learning how to write a paragraph well. Once you've got a paragraph down, you write whatever you want. I mean, writing's not that hard once you get the basics down. All right, good luck.